Swanepoel, partner at DHK Architects, who will present on precincts, urban design and operations, exploring how design, planning and partnerships are critical in operating successful precincts as centres, a Longkloof case study.
Hi everybody, I'll just testing the acoustics. Okay, quite sensitive. I'll stand rather than talk. This is a standing chat with you. Thanks for the intro. We feel, DHK and myself in particular, very privileged to have worked on a project as exciting as the one I'm about to show you, Longkloof Precinct. For Growth Point Properties, as many of you know, it is the largest listed REIT in South Africa. The owners of precincts such as the Waterfront in particular, which is down the road, and that's another stage going down. Okay, yeah. So what you're seeing here is an image. I'm going to try and look at both screens. Of the precinct where it is the larger buildings in the foreground are the precinct and this what we're looking at here is a precinct which is characterized by a number of existing heritage buildings from the early 1900s, about 1903 and 4. The tobacco factory, well, you can see the red buildings with this what we call the streaky baking buildings. The red brick with the white stripes, and just going to go here, one here, there. This is a better view of it. You can see the precinct, which we started working about approximately 2010, and the nature of this site is the brief wasn't crystal clear in terms of the overall brief to start off with. There were colleagues of mine in this room over here worked on from 2010. On a quite a limited portion of the site, which expanded incrementally over time. I got involved at a later date when we were looking at smaller components, and then we expanded to looking at the main site as a whole, which the likes of Guy Briggs and the rest of the landscaping team got involved too. So the talks is pretty much going to be what the initial brief was, what repurposing and addition of new assets. The incremental purchase of 11 Irvin is not one site. That's important. And it's a bit of a 15-year design history. Precinct shortcomings, inception, some of the challenges we had, and what has been achieved. I said there's a lay. It doesn't. I was hoping I could have a pointer, but doesn't. There's no pointer here. So I'll have to just. There's a disappointing. Yeah. So I'll just explain to you. So in the foreground, the middle of the picture, there's an old building which is the Herbert Baker design buildings from Herbert Baker's office, not him personally, called Westcliff School. And to the right-hand side is a large parking lot, and which was owned by the Growth Point. The buildings behind that. The red buildings, as I said, there was the tobacco factory, 2 buildings, and then there's a couple of other buildings which I'll come to now, which are quite a later date. But the nature of this precinct, it's going to go. Sorry, this is just locating where it is relative to the waterfront. You can see here the red square where it's located. It's the transition between the CBD. And the more residential portion of the city bowl. Just like this image, Growth Point, they're on the room, which is good. They never like to show that as a cigarette factory, tobacco factory to start off with. And I found this image just doing a search a few weeks ago, showing how it looked at the time. And the 2 buildings you see that were designed circa 1903. And then the building in front of it, just where that big black tree is, there was a smaller building which is about 1918, and then the Herbert Baker building with the tiled roof one to the left-hand side of the image in 1953. Yeah, so which is a school. So you're seeing so the upside of tobacco in this case is that they could spend a lot of money on designing very nice factory buildings. Shooting factory buildings would never have this much detail. So we quite like that. The brief, as I said, was realization of permitted development rights, very important on the precinct. That's the only reason they're doing this. And then also to have, utilize advantages of one owner having 11 adjacent properties, and how do you kind of get value out of that. Very important, pick on these guys, creating an enticing, creative, innovative, vibrant, secure, mixed-use precinct. Mixed use being the key, vibrant, not being a gated precinct where you're enticing people into the precinct. You're making it part of the fabric of the very active Cliff and Park Street. And just a side note, the pleasure work in this scheme is that there's a precinct, a very strong public realm immediately adjacent to it. So it's not like you're doing something out in the sticks somewhere where you have to create the precinct. You have the precinct alongside. So what we're doing, and it's very important, this image here, you can see the city there. You can see looking directly down Bree Street, that central street, and going towards the city, which terminates. And this precinct cut the CBD off from the gardens and Cliff Street. So there's actually a barrier. It's like a blind spot in our city, one of these holes which were blocked off. So securitized parking. These buildings are disparate buildings which had no connection, frontage, accessibility. People that did work there had to go through access control. So it really offered nothing to the immediate context or community. And as I said, very important, maximizing street frontages. And key is taking all those horrible cars and putting them underground and not seeing them at all. So there's a quick little fun image of there's an old image, but it's just the same view, what we proposed on that site, which will come to what the brief is now. So I think the context, you can see the bottom two buildings in red. That's a new building which we designed. Initially, starting in 2010, culminating by 2015 in an approval for an office building, and not a hotel building. It became a hotel. So, we had to shoehorn a hotel into a convoluted office building, which took into account all the setbacks, the irregular geometry of the site, and it was a big challenge. And so effectively, we can say adaptive reuse of an existing building, but as a joke in our client's eyes. And then you can see the refinery to the left. There we did a refurbishment, adaptive reuse, the artists and threshers, the two pinkish buildings in the middle. They're also adaptive reuse of a very beautiful kind of heritage building. And the two top ones, the one on the left, Cliff Annex, we're going to do, that is parking. Parking, which we're going to convert into residential with some parking in it. And then 32 Cliff, the top one on the right, is where we added floors onto an existing, also heritage building, built in, I think, 1922. Okay, so the precinct was actually a combination of school and tobacco factory. Then it all became at one stage offices when the tobacco factory moved out, and then ETV moved into a big chunk of it. So it's an area characterized by media, kind of tech, kind of interesting clientele on that precinct. A bit of a hipster kind of precinct. It looked at all the people who kind of generally occupy those spaces. The two ones in yellow, we're currently on our drawing board. We're busy looking at those. Both of them, the one was only bought about 2-3 months ago, Carisbrook. The one just to the left, if I can't see, there's something weird happening there. The arrows aren't particularly good. The bottom yellow one to the left, recently bought potentially a hotel or a residential building, and there's literally meetings on that right now. And the other ones you can see which have been completed. The hotel, 32 Cliff for the glass box on top, which Workshop 17 are in. So there's a lot of co-working space, so a hybrid between retail, co-working, office spaces, larger office spaces, and residential coming up, which we're happy about. Okay, that's just one. I'm going to show you very much the 11 sites. I'm going to say the combined site area is about 15,000 square meters, which gives you about 64,000 permitted rights, only half of which we've managed to realize. I think picking up one on doing adaptive or kind of regeneration projects in heritage area, realizing a bulk isn't always that easy. because you've got restrictions in terms of setbacks, in terms of height restrictions, which are more onerous than your alarms going off from your house, probably. Yeah. So so looking at precinct, the development opportunities, using the multiple urban, seeing you have to identify what the shortcomings are, what the shortcomings of the buildings are, and how they've been badly adapted, altered, and what you have to undo. You identify what areas should be demolished, which is quite good. You're demolishing or adapting heritage buildings. Some people might be quite critical of that, but I believe we were very successful in what we did there. Here's the starting point. You can see the large parking area, the building immediately adjacent to the parking area, which we demolished most of, like 90% of it, kept one wall, and the other buildings which we did adaptive reuse of. And obviously there's big open spaces where the hotel and new square went. So I'm not going to go very strict heritage indicators and urban design indicators in terms of setbacks from the street, respecting your lower neighbors, and height restrictions relating to your buildings adjacent. Fragmentation of these buildings. You don't just bring one big mass on the site and hope to get away with it. You have to be kind of trying to add to your very rich kind of and textured precinct or in context. And there was just showing how we fill that in, and I'm going to move on very quickly. Assessing the buildings, very quickly working out what doesn't work, what does work. The building on Cliff Street, terribly altered with a roof, rebuilt the roof, and it was not a heritage kind of worthy kind of a termination of the building anymore. And you'll see how we proposed fixing that. Also, a lot of conversions to the low ground spaces, filling in courtyards, making these dark, dank, confusing spaces. So in terms of if you want to take a precinct, make it legible. What we found is start off was extremely illegible, very confusing to even walk around, do a site visit, you'll lose your colleagues, because there is a matrix of kind of spaces intertwined roots, and one floor, and then it connects the next floor into the next building, and so a lot of internalized corridors, blocked off corridors, and so we try to expose all this, open them up, and externalize them, make it legible, and make the internal spaces, which are not going to have very clean, open spaces, celebrating the architecture of the precinct. Some very nice old drawings from Herb Baker's office there. I just show this because you can see those beautiful arches where the kids' playground was. The guys filled them in, made these little windows. So the spaces are not celebrated at all. And not optimized. So there, just once again, you're seeing all the buildings discussed, the bottom two on the left, the hotel, the ones on the right, the existing buildings, and we're creating a new square in front of it, which we're going to come to now. This is just talking about setbacks and geometries. When we designed it for an office building, then we turned it into a hotel afterwards, and the form was very much massaged together with the heritage consultants, and Their urban design principles, the stuff that they mentioned before, active frontages, pedestrian walkways, maybe primary and generous publicly accessible spaces, a very permeable precinct makes a big difference, and then public spaces, movement routes through, understanding those movement routes, encouraging them through. So and pedestrian in particular, limiting vehicular entrances or access, and then seeing the result of that. I'm going to go very quickly. Hotel, with hotels, try and maximize the third-party retail, not have all of it hotel, so your ground floor is really kind of activated. And then you see a very irregular hotel shape as a result of the scheme we inherited from at the office footprint. There you start seeing the form of the building, the setbacks, the roofs, picking up the geometry on the heritage of the factory building adjacent to it, open gables rather than brick gables, enhancing views, sections, and then looking at the layering of the streetscape, the two-story buildings. As you step back, you kind of higher, the building ramps up or steps up towards the high point in the middle of the site, and then which forms terraces, and it just gives a lot back towards the streetscape. So and not being a dominant building looming over Park Street. Entrances, you maximizing these kind of landscape routes and views onto the courtyard, retail alley. So this is a kind of one building on the right hand side, which the client only acquired about a year and a half ago. So we had to redesign that building, and you'll see that's now a cafe just opened, and it's now part of the precinct. And there, once again, the views from the square, the layering of it, picking up the old brick from the factory and then doing a modern interpretation of it, and a kind of contemporary building as you go higher up. And also the complexity of the slope, the sections, the creating a space via sunken courtyards, change of levels to define the space, make comfortable spaces. Have I got a couple of minutes? Okay, all right. Okay, there, courtyards, some views of it, cafes, fronting parking, concealing the parking. You can see before and after over here, and a very positive public realm on top, and the view of the precinct there, which you have there, and some construction photos, and then landscaping. Landscaping, key component, which you to celebrate these public spaces you made, movement routes, soft landscaping, concession areas. You want to activate the edges, give the retailers an opportunity of marketing or using the space outside, and then street furniture, wayfinding, landscape design, terraces, look on a beautiful mountain, and that's your precinct. And then I will just finish off with the last buildings. What have you added on the roof? We're maximizing bulk, adding on in a contemporary but respectful way of, enhancing and celebrating, we believe, is that the heritage value, turning into contemporary precinct, excavating courtyards to make it more defined, usable space, unlocking basements, giving frontage to basements. So you're taking your whatever bulk you have to celebrate it and kind of optimize it. The complexity of that. Once again, digging out courtyards where things have been badly altered and making frontage below, kind of getting light deep into spaces, activating those spaces again. And adding walkways on the top to make it very kind of subdivisible, so you can very commercially aware of how their viability. You have to be able to get top tenants in, multiple tenants in, into compliant spaces. So that's coming to the end of it now. That courtyard, and I think that is the end of it. Well, they just stopped me from doing it, I think. Anyway, so yeah, just to recap, I think what I think we did achieve, things that they spoke about. It is maximizing the asset, creating kind of new value, bulking up as much as possible, and creating interest, make a permeable precinct, and having a very active on the retail level, public realm, where you can. It's a point where, as Rashik said, you want to either come as an individual, bring your family, go for lunch, and have an office there, and spend the night in a hotel. So I think we're very proud of the fact that this is a precinct which. Oh, there you go. I think we tick all those boxes. You can read for yourself into the car-free, future-proofed. Very important, future-proofed, because I just want to show you here. Those three buildings, the red one, the yellow one we're busy working on right now, and the purple one, the old Canning's panel beating factory. They are another architect's working in that, but they're working very much within the same framework and kind of desire lines that we've kind of set up. So we have quite happy that those three buildings will complete the precinct and extend the pedestrian environment all the way down to Bree Street and kind of reconnect this part of previously cut off part of gardens towards Bree Street and the CBD. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was really spectacular. I'm personally obsessed with heritage building conversions. And I must say, it's a total art to get this right, to make the building make sense again in a whole new way. So DHK has really done it best with this case study. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this session. We are now going to move to a new panel.